Hey you guys, what's up? This is Slifer29 here. So I know it's been a little while since I posted my last video where I had talked about some cards for the new Blackluster Soldier archetype, and so it was some ideas that I had, and so finally at the suggestion of some subscribers, I finally built my Blackluster Soldier deck. So far, I built it to the best of my ability and what I think might work with it, but I won't know the full effectiveness of it until I try it out in a duel. But I just thought I'd share with you guys what I have inside of the deck. So why don't we get started? So obviously, I'm using here 3 copies of Blackluster Soldier, Super Soldier, which is of course considered to be the ace card of the deck. Now, I think that it's good to run a play set of 3 of these, because at first I was contemplating on running at least I was going to think about running 2 copies of Super Soldier and 2 copies of the original Blackluster Soldier, but then I thought to myself that that's overkill, so I think that just having 3 of Super Soldier will do fine. And besides, the thing is that even if I did use the original Blackluster Soldier, unless I was using Beginning Night and Evening Twilight Night in its ritual summon, I wouldn't get all that much use out of it, aside from the fact of just having a 3,000 point beat stick on the field. So yeah. And then next, of course, got the 1 copy of Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning. And of course, though, I'm running that for obvious reasons, so you got to have that in the deck. Envoy of the Evening Twilight is an interesting card, but in my personal opinion, I just don't see a need to run it, because in my opinion, Envoy at the Beginning is much more easier to summon, and you get to use this effect, each effect once per turn, compared to the fact with Envoy of the Evening Twilight you can only use 1 effect per turn. So there you have it with that. And then I am also running 2 copies of Charging Gaia the Fierce Knight. So, of course, though, it can be normal summon without a tribute. And, of course, if you do, then its original attack becomes 1900. And if it's tributed, then you can add a Blackluster Soldier monster from your deck to your hand. So good for getting either Super Soldier or Envoy at the Beginning into my hand. And not to mention, with the fact of using this with either Sphere Karibo or Super Soldier Soul, really helps with level 8 ritual summons. So good to run. I think 1 might be enough, but I'm willing to try it with 2 just to test the waters. Now, obviously, I am running 3 copies of Beginning Night, and this, if you're building a Blackluster Soldier deck, using 3 copies of both Beginning Night as well as Evening Twilight Night are both highly recommended, because don't forget that whenever these cards are used in a ritual summon for a Blackluster Soldier ritual monster, that ritual monster gains the following effects. Now remember, with Beginning Night, you can banish a monster once per turn, and if the Blackluster Soldier ritual monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it can attack once again in a row. And in the case of Evening Twilight Night, should it kill a monster in it gives your Blackluster Soldier ritual monster the ability to banish a monster, and once per turn you can banish a random card from your opponent's hand face down, and they get it back at the end of their next turn. So using both of these in the ritual summon for Super Soldier will give him 6 effects altogether, because the 2 effects that he has on his own, along with the 4 effects that he would gain between these 2 monsters. And plus, Super Soldier's effect to summon a Gaia, the Fierce Night monster, should it get destroyed, whether by battle or by an opponent's card effect, is always important. So I would definitely run 3 of these, so that's what I'm doing here. And then also, I'm running 3 copies of Sphere Karibo for obvious reasons, because but then again, so I think this is really good for when doing the ritual summonings for Blackluster Soldier, Super Soldier, by simply tributing it along with Charging Gaia the Fierce Knight, and especially if it's in the graveyard, its ability to allow a ritual summon by banishing this card from the graveyard is definitely good. And not to mention that if an opponent's monster declares an attack, whether that be against a monster or at you directly, you can discard him from the hand to the grave to switch the attacking monster into defense mode. So this card is very good for setting up for ritual summons as well as being a good defensive card. So I really like that. So, and then also got 3 copies of Super Soldier Soul, which of course I think is a good idea because of course you can send a Blackluster Soldier monster from your hand to the grave to give this card 3,000 attack points until the end phase of the turn. But if it's in the graveyard, then you can banish it to get either Beginning Night or Evening Twilight Night from your deck to your hand. So so this would be good too, though, in the case of a ritual summoning, because if I was to tribute this along with Charging Gaia the Fierce Knight and bring out Super Soldier, this really helps to set up for the fact that that I can just banish it to get Beginning Night or Evening Twilight Night. So always good. And then here got 3 copies of Skilled Blue Magician. Now this one might be a little bit out of left field because now of course Skilled Blue Magician, for every time that a spell card is activated, whether by you or your opponent, this card gets a spell counter on it, and the maximum is 3. And then if you tribute this card while it has 3 spell counters on it, then you can special summon a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So this is good for bringing out Charging Gaia the Fierce Knight, Swift Gaia the Fierce Knight, or the eventual Awakened Gaia the Fierce Knight. So I think this will be worth trying. It may work out I think it may work out just great, and then again, it may not though. But then again, a little trial and error doesn't hurt anybody, right? And so that does it in the case of monsters. So now for spell cards, I'm running 3 copies of Super Soldier Ritual. So it's used to ritual summon any Blackluster Soldier ritual monster, and during the and of course it has the levels of the tributed monsters have to be exactly 8, so it can't be anything over that. And during your turn, except for the turn that this card was sent to the grave, you can banish this card along with a light and a dark monster in order to special summon a Blackluster Soldier ritual monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions. So this is good if this card, along with Beginning Night and Evening Twilight Night, are in the graveyard, because it lets you summon a Super Soldier. And then due to the fact that with Beginning Night and Evening Twilight Night being banished, each of their effects will let you add a ritual spell card and a ritual monster card respectively from your deck to your hand. So I think it's definitely worth it to run a playset of Super Soldier Ritual because it's such a multifaceted card. And then I'm running 2 copies of Gateway to Chaos. So upon activation of this card, it lets you add a Blackluster Soldier ritual monster or a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster from my deck to my hand. And each time that a monster card or cards is sent from the hand or the field to the graveyard, then a spell counter is placed on this card. And then by removing 3 spell counters from this card, I can add a ritual spell card from my deck to my hand. So that's very good to so you activate this, and it's good to get either Super Soldier or Charging Gaia. So that definitely sets up. And then especially it's also good for helping to get Super Soldier Ritual to the hand faster. And with the way that this deck is run, it would definitely ensure that a bunch of monsters would get sent from the hand or the field to the grave to rapidly get the 3 spell counters that would be needed. And then Terraforming, of course, helps to speed up the process of getting Gateway to Chaos, because I was thinking about maybe just 1 of Gateway, but I think 2 might be good, especially if coupled with Terraforming. So I think that might be a good fit for it. And then, of course, though, in terms of staples, you got Dark Hole, 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, Book of Moon, because you never know when you might deal with some tricky monsters that might be trying to take out any of yours while you're trying to set up for the ritual summonings. Pot of Duality. Even though this is a very special summon centric deck, I think that this card would be helpful in terms of getting what you need. Especially this would be like a good first turn card if you happen to draw it in your starting hand. And then of course got 1 Reinforcement of the Army. And then Foolish Burial, which is good for getting Sphere Karibo or Beginning Night or Evening Twilight Night in the graveyard, or heck, even Super Soldier Soul. So multiple uses out of that card. And then for trap cards, got Compulsory Evacuation Device, a must-have staple. I'm running 2 copies of Call of the Haunted simply because in the case that Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, or even Blackluster Soldier, Super Soldier, should they hit the graveyard, these are good cards for getting them back. So I think that's definitely something that's worth using. And then running 2 copies of Mirror Force, 1 copy of Bottomless, and Torrential, always good to have. Super Soldier Rebirth, I'm only running 1 copy of this card because, of course, you just target a Blackluster Soldier monster that you control and you send it to the graveyard. And if you do, then you special summon a Blackluster Soldier monster from your hand with a different name from that monster onto your side of the field, ignoring the summoning conditions. And during the during the main phase, except for the turn that this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard to target a Blackluster Soldier monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand, and you can only activate 1 Super Soldier Rebirth a turn. So I would say if you're gonna run Super Soldier Rebirth, just use at least 1 in the deck. And then Super Soldier Shield, you can say that this card is kind of like the Blackluster Soldier deck's Infernity Barrier in a way, because whenever a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated while that targets a monster on the field while you control a Blackluster Soldier monster, then you negate the activation, and if you do, then you destroy that card, and you can remove a spell counter from your side of the field. So this is good for removing from Gateway to Chaos, to get this card back from your graveyard. But however, should this card leave the field after being recovered and set and activated, then it's banished. And then Solemn Warning is also another good card, so I think that's definitely worth using. And I have no extra deck for this deck because I felt like at this point in time it wasn't all that necessary, but I may change my mind about that as time goes on. And then for my side deck, got I have 2 each of Gaia the Midnight Sun and Gaia the Polar Night, because as you can see, these cards are supposed to be polar opposites to one another, and so you can use each effect. And I think that these are good cards to run, but I'm side decking them for the time being just to see how things are, because if depending on how the deck may do with Skill Blue Magician, I may or may not side with that, but we'll see how it goes as time goes on. And then I also have 1 copy of Chaos Sorcerer, so yeah, and that's good to use. And then for spells in the side deck, I have 1 copy of Allure of Darkness, 1 Monster Reincarnation, 1 Dark Hole, and 2 copies of Lightning Vortex, so nice old school card. And then for trap cards in the side deck, got 1 copy of Fiendish Chain, 1 copy of Half or Nothing, 1 copy of Negate Attack, and another copy each of Super Soldier Rebirth and Super Soldier Shield, which I'm just considering side decking because I want to test to see how well the deck works out, and if I feel like if I can get Super Soldier on the field a lot more often, then I will consider running a second of each card. So all in all, guys, I really hope that you like this idea about the deck, and if you guys have any suggestions, I'm always happy to hear it. And as always, you guys, make sure to like, comment, rate, and subscribe. And until then, peace out, you guys.